there! Welcome to Skeleton Productions. I'm Crown Grace Kokon. Let's get into the video. Today's video, I'm basically going to be doing an update on my video which I did last year, which is why I left the Conservative Party, right? So definitely check that video out because a lot of the kind of statistical things which kind of back up my point will be in that. However, for those people who are waiting for the Irish potato famine video of what if the Irish potato famine never happened, sorry to disappoint you, that will come out in the next week or two. But I think that this is a bit more pressing, because what's going on in the UK at the moment is really shocking, and I think we need to really focus on this because we can talk about history, but if we're not talking about the present and talk about the future, then a conversation about history is kind of meaningless. So if you like what you've seen already, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell button so you stay notified for upcoming videos. But now we're going to kind of dive into this video, right? So recently I was reading an article by Matthew Lynn in the Telegraph, and the long and the short of this article was basically talking about how the UK is basically becoming the new Italy. Now what he means by that is that in the late 80s and in the 1990s, right, Italy looked like it was going to boom, and then in the 2000s and onwards it's just stagnated, and we are heading in that same direction because we have stagnant economic growth, we have a huge debt problem. We're close to approaching the 100% mark, right, in terms of percentage of GDP, and we are just we're dying as a civilization, right? What I mean by that is that the replacement rate for births is 2.1. We are way below that, right? If you don't add in immigrants who come, right, the only reason why our population is increasing is because of immigration. And what ends up happening with that is in the future, we are going to have a situation where we have more and more old people and less workers, right? And the only way to pay for this system is one of two things. One, do proper pension reforms, which is something which I'm advocating in a book at which I'm writing at the moment, called The Big Deal. Definitely stay tuned for that because that will come out in a few years time and stuff. I'm kind of working on it already. I think it's important not to rush these kind of things, but I'm kind of laying it out now. I have many different ideas within that and stuff, right, for basically how to turn our civilization around, right? Because I think that's what we really need. I think we need a revamp, we need a rebirth, right? Because the same old politics, the same old stuff is just not going to cut it anymore. And I think to stop this kind of mismanaged decline, that's what we have to do. In the 1970s, we had so-called managed decline. Look at the cadre of politicians we have at the moment. There is no managed decline, right? It's just mismanaged decline. We are being run by idiots. This is a great country and we're being run by idiots, right? And the example of this is what we can see at the moment with Liz Truss, Kwasi Kwarteng, and Jeremy, well, I was going to say something that rhymes with Hunt, but that's what I basically think of it. Because we've had a Conservative Party all these years here which have been incompetent and useless. Since then, we had to get rid of Boris because he was just a complete liar. I don't know why anyone ever backed him. I always said that when people asked me about him, even before he became the leader, I said the famous quote from JFK, which is that those that ride the tiger in the pursuit of power, sooner or later will end up inside of it, right? And you can see that at the moment, all the people who supported him, right, who was we're going to have this huge stomping majority and stuff, right? Look where it's led you. Look where it's led you. You backed a charlatan, and now you've had all the consequences of that. So he completely tanked the economy. He completely tanked everything, right? He didn't do one conservative thing while he was in office. And then now you've got Liz Truss, who I never really thought much of her. I thought she was okay, but we don't need okay people. We need great people to lead a great country, right? And she came in and, she offered really, for conservatives, for kind of fiscal conservatives, right? She offered something which was the most conservative budget that we've had since the days of Thatcher, right? It was actually genuinely exciting, lowering the top rate of tax, all these kind of things, right? What's happened in the last few weeks is that all of that has been reversed. All the unpopular things have been reversed, right? And why has that been happening? Because you have so-called followship, in the words of Nigelfarage, right? You have followship rather than leadership. People now look at opinion polls and go, right, the public doesn't want that, so we're not going to do that policy. No, the policy needs to be done. You need to argue it. You need to lay the groundwork for it. You need to run the experiment, and when the results of the experiment come out, then the people re-elect you. That's what we see with Thatcher. Thatcher, in her first term, mass unemployment, all kinds of problems, etc., etc. But they elected her again in 83, they elected her again in 87. So the thing is, if you push through policies which at the face of it are unpopular, but are the right policies, people will back you. But if you do this kind of thing where you just go, oh no, oh, the markets are reacting this way. And actually, this is another thing as well. It's quite funny that these kind of so-called like socialists, so-called progressives, right? Everyone's all kind of going, oh, look, oh, the market's tanked. Really? Do you want the markets to determine the policies of our country? Is that really what you want? Like, whether you're on the left or right of the system, big money should not determine what our policy is. And also, it's short-termism, right? The markets are going to be spooked because the markets like stability. They don't like any kind of change. So any kind of change is going to tank, right? But you weather the storm. You don't just go, oh no, okay, all the people in the city of London didn't like this, yeah, so now we're going to retract on it. And actually, why were the people in the city of London spooked? Because, as I said to my friends, this is one step forward, two steps back. Because this policy, these like tax cuts in themselves, were not the full package, right? You need to have tax cuts and spending cuts, right? Because we've had a huge deficit. We've had run deficit every year since 2001. That's why we're up to our eyeballs in debt. But you run that deficit, right? And you add on top of that all the cost of living things. And then on top of that, you add on tax cuts with no talk of spending cuts. Of course, the market's going to react because they're going to be like, how are you ever going to pay for this? And this is what I mean about we're becoming like Italy, becoming like other places in Europe, which are picking comfortability, right, over actual hard things, right? People in Europe are becoming soft. They're becoming soft, they're becoming complacent, and that's why we are in the state that we're in at the moment, because the people want, panem and circumsensum, right? I think that's the Latin way of saying bread and circuses, right? That's what we're being offered. That's what all of our politicians are trying to cater to. People don't want to be given hard truths of this is going to hurt, but in the long term, it will work out for you, right? And that's a mindset we need to change. And that's the only way we're going to get out of this death spiral that we're in at the moment, right? And also as well, see with regard to the policies themselves, 40% top rate of tax is not extreme, right? In terms of the messaging for this, when all these people were kind of getting up in arms about this, you should have said, really, hold on. From 1988 till 2010, we had a top rate of tax of 40%. And actually, if you look in terms of like the Laffer curve, right, because I've actually done this, all right, I've looked at all the statistics, all the years from 1945 to the present day, and you look at the income tax revenue as a percentage of GDP, and you work out the average of that over all that time. And what you'll tend to find is that the years where we had the most revenue was when the top rate of tax was at 40% on average, right? People think that just because you add a number on here that all of a sudden that's going to translate to more taxes. No, because rich people are not stupid. Rich people can go click, 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 and they can send their money into a Swiss bank account. So when you raise the rate, you're not going to get that extra revenue that you think. Yeah, time and time again, people have raised it past that 40%, 45%, 50% mark here, and it doesn't have the results that they think it will. So 40% keeps things level, keeps things competitive. And actually, if you look at our competitors, if you look at Switzerland, 40%. If you look at the United States, 37%. If you look at even New Zealand, 39%. So when is this whole thing of like, oh, 40%, oh my God, it's like Mad Max. No, it's not. It's actually really moderate, okay? Calm down. 40% is calm. So please, if you're going to make a policy, argue it, stick with it. Don't throw your chancellor under the bus as if you didn't take part in that decision as well, right? And also don't hire a centrist who's going to just do all the wrong policies, right? And that's the thing, right? You can see at the moment why this is why I left the Conservative Party, and this is why I'm still not part of the Conservative Party, because they don't stand for anything. It's like what Nigel Farage said. They don't stand for anything, right? They don't believe in anything. And it serves no purpose anymore. The Conservative Party serves no purpose. Even rural voters, right? You know you've done bad when even rural voters are now overwhelmingly voting for Labour. Labour has a 30% lead over Conservatives. Now obviously at time of the general election, that will narrow a little bit, but still they are looking at a wipeout. Why? It's not because of the policies, it's because you don't know how to argue for the policies, right? You don't know how to stick to your convictions. You don't have convictions, and therefore you get blown about. This is what Thatcher said. If you don't have convictions, you get blown about, right? So, moving forward, This is what people need to understand. You need to look at this, you need to look at this crisis. Never let a good crisis go to waste, as they say, right? Look at this and understand the Conservative Party is done. It might come back in a few years' time, it might be re-elected, yeah, but in terms of its functionality, in terms of preserving our civilization, it is a spent force. 200 years, it had a good run, it's a spent force. Which means that new parties on the so-called right need to rise up, which means that Reform Party UK, aka the Brexit Party, that needs to become the new party on the right. And obviously with our electoral system, which already needs reform anyway, these things are the things we need to push for, right? So when there ends up in the Labour government, which seems inevitable at this point, we need to push for electoral reform, because then this will mean that the Conservative Party will never be re-elected again. That's the things we need to push for, and these are things which we need to hold our politicians to their feet to the fire for, because where we're heading is just like how it was in like the late Roman Empire, right? When you have political instability like this, like how you have in Italy, like how you have in many places in Europe, right? Where we've had 4 prime ministers in the space of the last 6 years, and actually by the end of this year we could end up having a 5th. When we have this level of political instability, when everything in our society is crumbling, right? We need to stop and take stock of that, and we need to reverse those trends. But to do that, we can't wait for some person on a knight on a white horse and stuff, right, to come save us. No, we need to change our mentality. We need to stop electing people who are of a proven record of failure. That's insanity. If you expect different results, if you keep doing the same thing, you're an idiot. You're insane. Stop doing those things. Change what you're doing. And then moving forwards, then we can start looking back at this and be like, this was the moment where we had this real change. And actually, what we have to think of as well is, as a society, which is becoming more and more aging, are we going to be an electorate which is more focused on what the needs of the elderly are? Or are we going to be focused more on the youth? Are we, in spite of all the votes being with the elderly population, are we going to sacrifice the youth, or are we going to actually empower the youth? So this is why, if you're between the age of 16 and 30 in the UK, you have the recent event, which is on the 3rd of November. I'm going to be there. Many other people are going to be there. Nigelfarage is going to be there. Peter Hitchens, etc., etc. Many great speakers are going to be there, right? Check the line out. Get your tickets in. Be there. Where it's going to be an all-day workshop thing, great networking, etc., etc. And we need to be there in order to be that new voice, that new generation, because otherwise we're just heading for oblivion. We're heading towards looking like Italy. And Italy's a nice place to go, don't get me wrong. There's lovely people, lovely food, etc., etc. But if we want to stagnate and keep going down this path, we're going to look back at this and be like, this was the moment where we could have turned things around, and it's now too late, right? And to avoid that, that's when we need to act. So, that being said, don't forget, obviously, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell button, also check out all the other videos. Normally we don't just do like political hot takes like this, talk about many other things, we talk about history, etc., etc. But there are other political videos as well that I've done, so please check those out as well, share them with people as well, and in the meantime, have a great day and bye.